The early morning cold covered the mountains of Patagonia as Jacob and Renesmee reached their temporary hideout. They had escaped the Volturi in Argentina, but the weight of the pursuit still loomed over them. Their bodies were tense, their minds alert. Any shadow could be an enemy. Jacob let out a low growl as he leaned against a fallen log. "Remind me again why we can't just go home." Renesmee, standing with her arms crossed and her gaze fixed on the horizon, sighed, "Because I don't want my family to pay for my decisions." Jacob stared at her. The girl in front of him was no longer the child he had promised to protect. She had grown, she had changed, and though she was still Renesmee, the sweet hybrid who once played with him at the Cullen cabin, she now had a strength that even he admired. "So what's the plan?" he asked. Renesmee turned to face him. "We can't keep running. Sooner or later, the Volturi will catch up to us. So, we need allies." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. You're thinking of finding more hybrids?" She smiled slightly. "Exactly what I was thinking," Jacob sighed. "Of course you were." But deep down, he knew they had no other choice. Their search for allies led them to Romania, the home of the oldest vampires who once ruled the world before the Volturi destroyed them. Vladimir and Stefan, the last survivors of the ancient Romanian clan, greeted them with twisted smiles. "Ah, the little Cullen," Vladimir said, watching Renesmee with interest. "I thought the Volturi had you in their sights." Renesmee didn't hesitate. "That's why we're here," Stefan smirked. "Looking for refuge? Looking for allies," she corrected. Jacob felt a pang of pride. His Nessie was not a child asking for help. She was a leader in the making. Vladimir and Stefan exchanged glances. "Interesting," Stefan murmured. "Tell us more." And so, Renesmee told them about her vision. The Volturi had ruled with an iron fist for centuries, using fear to maintain order. But the world was changing. Hybrids were not just an anomaly, they were an evolution. "If the Volturi fear me, it's because they know what I represent," Renesmee said firmly. "But I'm not the only one. There are more like me out there." The Romanians watched her in silence for a long minute. Finally, Vladimir smiled. "I think I like you, girl." Jacob let out a dry chuckle. Yeah, we all like her." "So what now? Are you going to help us or not?" Stefan tilted his head. "Let's just say we have our own reasons for wanting to see the Volturi fall." "Then we have a deal," Renesmee said, extending her hand. Vladimir shook it with a sly grin. "This will be interesting, but finding allies wasn't so easy elsewhere. In Asia, they found a clan of nomadic vampires living in ancient Japanese temples. But not everyone trusted Renesmee. "You are an anomaly," one of them said, "a pale-skinned vampire with long hair. You are not fully vampire, nor fully human. Why should we follow you?" Renesmee stood her ground. "Because together, we can be stronger than the Volturi." But not all were convinced. Jacob growled. "Look, I get that you think this isn't your problem, but sooner or later, Aro will set his sights on you too. He's done it before." That made some hesitate. But the real problem came when a group of vampire assassins attacked their camp in the dead of night. Jacob sensed the danger before Renesmee did. "Move," he shouted, shoving her out of the way just as a dark figure lunged at them. The attackers were fast, relentless. Their red eyes gleamed in the darkness. They weren't Volturi soldiers, but they were trained to kill. Jacob shifted in an instant, tearing through the first with a single strike. Renesmee dodged a blade, using her supernatural strength to hurl another into a tree, but there were too many, until the temple vampires intervened, and then everything changed. When the battle ended, the leader of the Japanese clan approached Renesmee. "I still do not trust you," he said, "but I see that you do not run from battle." "I never will," she replied. The vampire studied her for a moment before nodding. "We will join you." Jacob let out a huff. "It's about time." With every step they took, with every ally they gained, Renesmee grew stronger. But the Volturi wouldn't stand idle. Aro had been watching, and finally, he made his move. They were hunted in Italy. Felix, Demetri, and Jane ambushed them in an abandoned castle. Jane smiled with her usual cruelty. "Did you think you could defy the Volturi without consequences?" Jacob felt his rage rise. "You know what? I'm tired of seeing your face." Jane sent her pain with a simple blink, but this time it didn't work. Renesmee stepped forward, power radiating from her skin. "You don't control us anymore," and with impossible speed, she lunged at Jane. Jacob didn't hesitate. He shifted and attacked Felix with all his fury. The battle was brutal. Vampire blood splattered the ground. Roars and screams filled the air. But when the dust settled, Jacob and Renesmee were still standing. Felix and Demetri lay on the ground, their bodies destroyed. Jane, at the last moment, escaped. But the war had begun. They were no longer fugitives. Now, they were the resistance. Renesmee Cullen wasn't just going to defy the Volturi, she was going to change the world.